There is only one perfect solution, but there are clues that will try to trick our team.
Hello there everyone, my name is Crazy Caleb, and welcome to Not Colored Switches. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the easier NOT modules from the version 3 pack, I believe, is what it is. Or maybe it's version 4, but it's from QuinnWest pack from Not Colored Switches of NOT modules, and we're going to be taking a look at Not Colored Switches. This module itself, fairly simple, and the way that you can tell this from the other colored switches is all of the switches will be pointing down immediately, and all of the bottom LEDs will be lit up as white. That's going to be the instant way that you're going to know that. Normally, colored switches would not have the bottom LEDs lit at all, and instead what would happen here is you would happen to have, you'd have to go through the first 3 presses, then the lights turn on to get that final state. But in this case, all the bottom LEDs will be on, and what happens here is that when you start flipping switches, what happens here is it will turn orange at the bottom when you flip one switch up. And what these LEDs are going to be transmitting is they're going to be transmitting a letter. And essentially what it's going to be happening is this is going to be in a marquee display, essentially. And what's going to be happening here is this is going to be the way that they're going to look here. So in this first example, this one is looking very interesting. And I believe that's just a Bravo here. Yes, Bravo. As you can see, it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 5, and it's going back and forth between. So this first one is going to be represented by a Bravo. Now, one of the things that's very important to note down is you do not want to have more than one switch up until you are ready for an answer, because that's the way that this is going to work. Because upon flipping a single switch upwards, the bottom LEDs will turn orange, as I just mentioned, and they will give you the letter that you need to get. The letters being displayed have been encrypted based on the color of the switch that has been flipped. This is where the color of the switch is very important. So, we'll get into that in just a second, but to enter submission phase, toggle the switches so that more than one switch is flipped up, and at this point, the bottom LEDs will turn red. It's very important that you only mess around with one switch until you're ready to submit your answer. So, let's get back into this. So now, what we're essentially going to do is we're going to get all of the letters for each of these ones here. And what this is going to be telling us to do is we're trying to figure out, we first need to decrypt the letters that we're looking at based off of the colors of the switches. And what we need to do is we need to take a look at these word lists here. And as you can see, they are all 6 worded letters, and these happen to be from, you guessed it, extended password. So, they're all going to be 6-letter words. And we're going to be missing one of these. And our goal here is to figure out, hey, which one are we missing and which word are we looking at, so we can determine which other are missing. And that's where we're going to be submitting it to the module. So let's get right into this. So let's get the rest of our letters here. So this one, is an interesting one. That's a golf, yes. This next one's a golf, as you can see, 3, 1, 1, 3, 4, 5, then 1, 5, and then 2, 3, 4. Yep. Next up. We have, it definitely takes a little bit of a practice, but these ones are a lot easier to read compared to, for example, not Morse code, not Morse-matics, rather. That would happen to be a kilo, yes, that makes sense. I was thinking that would be kilo. Now there is the possibility of there being duplicate letters, so don't be afraid of that, so let's just mark that with a G. And finally, that is a Lima, classic. Okay, so now we have determined all of our letters here, but as you can see, it's forming gibberish right now, and this is not going to work. Now, the thing about this is that these letters are not necessarily going to be in the order of the actual word. They're going to be random, but they will spell out some form of word. They will give hints to which word you're looking at here. So, and the way that these guys have been encrypted is based off of the color of the switches. Red represents Apache, green represents ROT13, blue represents seizure shifted forward, orange represents seizure shifted backwards, purple represents affine, and turquoise represents no change. So, what's important here is that these represent what's been encrypted. What we're essentially going to need to do is we need to decrypt. We're going to do the exact opposite of what this wants you to do. In some cases, this makes no difference. For example, ROT13, whatever happens. If you want to take a look at, for example, Mike and Zulu, these guys are both going to be the exact same answers regardless of which way you go. So it doesn't matter whether you add or subtract 13. It does not matter. Now keep in mind, some of these alphabets want you to actually use A0, Z25, whereas some of them don't. In this case, they will mention that at the beginning. In this case, that only applies to red and purple. Keep that in mind. But essentially, this is all you're going to be doing. Now, for example, with Caesar shifting, what happens here is that blue represents Caesar shifting forward based on switch of position, but remember, this is encrypting, so this is actually going to be backwards, And with orange, it says it's going to be backwards, but this means it's going to be forwards. That's what we're going to be doing with this module. And now affine is going to be the weird one, which I want to cover a bit because this one has definitely stumped quite a few people, and I want to make sure that people get this right. And turquoise, of course, is no change. You do exactly that. There's no change. So let's get right into this. So our first switch is going to be green. Green represents rot 13. And all we're simply going to do is we're going to take the alphabetic position of Bravo, which in this case is a 2. We're going to add 13 to this, and this case is going to give us 15. 15 is an Oscar. Okay. Next up, we have a blue. This is going to be seizure shifted forward based on switch position. However, in this case, that's what it encrypted to. We're going to be decrypting by shifting backwards. And in this case, the position from left to right is position 2 for the blue here. So we're going to be shifting this gulf here back by 2. And this is going to be an echo. Next up, we have orange. We're going to do the exact same thing as we did before, but now with switch position number 3, this is going to be number 3, we're going to be shifting forward because this is going to be orange, and it encrypted by shifting backwards. We're going to shift forward doing the opposite. So we're going to shift forward by 3, which is going to give us a November. Okay. Turquoise has no change. It's going to look like cyan for some of you guys, but it's turquoise, so that's going to be a Gulf for this one. Okay, and then finally, this Lima is going to be represented by purple. Now, purple is the affine cipher, and the way that this works is very particular. First off, it's A0Z25. Very important that we note that down. So, now what it normally would have done is it would have multiplied the alphabetic position by 5 and moduloed it by 26. And the way that we're going to have to reverse this is what we're going to do is we're going to take the alphabetic position of Lima, Lima here, which in this case, in A0Z25, is an 11. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add 26 repeatedly until it is a multiple of 5. Then we're going to divide by 5. And then we're going to modulate the number by 26, and in this case, that would be the number that represents it. So we're going to add 26 repeatedly until we get some sort of multiple of 26, which in this case we can keep going. And in this case, 115 is going to be the first number that we get to a multiple. So we're going to divide you by 5, and in this case we get 23, but this represents an X-ray because it's 23, which would normally be whiskey. However, 23 is going to be X-ray. So we get this. And now, let's take a look at our word list here, and let's see what we have here. So if we control F and we find the X, because there's not going to be that many of those, we can already tell our word is going to be oxygen. Because what we have here is we have an O, we have an E, we have an N, we have a G, and we have an X. Now, our missing letter here is going to be Yankee. And this is what we're going to be doing with this module here. So now this is what we're going to get into the submission phase for this. So, the module has chosen one of the words from the word list below, shuffled its letter order, and taken one letter out. In this case, it's taken out Yankee. The remaining 5 letters are shown to be LEDs, which we just found out, and the letter that has been taken out must be submitted. Okay. So now to enter submission phase, toggle the switches so that more than one switch is flipped up. But before we do that, let's take a look and see what we need to do for this. So then, convert the missing letter's alphabetic position, A0Z25, to binary. So in this example, this one is going to be Yankee. This is going to be represented not by 25, because that's normally where it would be in the alphabet, but by 24. And we need to convert this into binary. We're going to toggle the switches so that when a switch is flipped up, it represents a 1, and when a switch is flipped down, it represents a 0. So now the way that these powers work is it's based off of the power of 2. And the way that these are going to work is it's going to be 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. And this is essentially what each of these numbers are going to represent, just based off the powers of 2. This is the power of 4, power of 3, power of 2, power of 1, and power of 0. Because everything to the power of 0 is going to be represented by 1. And that's the way how binary works as a quick synopsis. Or as a quick sum up in this case. And essentially what we're going to want to do is we're going to try and find out the numbers that add up to 24 in this case, and then we're going to submit that into the module. And in this example, it's actually going to be just a nice and simple one. It's going to be 16 and 8. 16 plus 8 is going to be 24. And just like that, all we simply need to do is we need to have the first 2 switches up in order to submit Yankee. So let's do that. So let's submit 1 and then 2. And now, as you can see, the modules of the red have turned red because we have more than one switch up. And now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we do this, to submit your binary, toggle the same switch twice consecutively. So we can do this with any other switch. We can do it for one example. For example, we can do 1 and 1, and just like that is a solved module. Plain and simple. just make sure that the last switch that you flipped up, in this case, the 2. I didn't want to do the 2 because of the fact that if we went down, it would have submitted with only a 16, and that would not be the correct answer. And that's all you need to do with this module. It's a quite simple one, and it's one that I really like the concept of. It's nice and easy, and we'll go through one more example because I want to make sure that we cover red at some point. It's just app bash. It's really simple, but I want to make sure that I at least see one of every single switch of these, and we'll be good to go. But yeah, just make sure these athline has tricked people up a lot, and just make sure that you start with the alphabetic position of the letter, add 26 repeatedly until it's divisible by 5, which in this case the last digit has to be 5 or 0, then divide by 5, and whatever position you get from that, whatever number you get from that division result, is going to be the letter that you submit. That's going to be the letter that's present. So let's take a look at one final example here. Because the module itself, pretty easy to do. But however, there is that one rule that definitely tricks people up. It's tricked myself up too, to be quite honest. So let's take a look.
There is only one
Set, because we don't have a red. I want to get red just for the sake of it. There we go. Okay, and good. We actually get no purple too. That's quite nice. So let's see what letters we have. So we have. Does this look like another kilo? Yep. Oh, okay. So that's a Romeo, I believe. Yeah, that's Romeo. Yep. Romeo. Is that Romeo again? Wow. All right. Lima, classic. And by the way, if I didn't mention, it's going from top to bottom. If that wasn't clear. Wow, 3 Romeos. Jesus, it must love these Romeos. Huh. Okay, and now let's get into the decrypting part of this. So blue, Caesar shifted forward based on the switch position. We're going to be shifting backwards because it's decrypting. So we're going to be shifting backwards by 1. In this case, it's going to represent Juliet. Next up for red, at-bash cycle. So now this is really simple. So we're going to be subtracting Romeo from 25. And in this case, this is going to be a 17. So 25 minus 17 is going to be 8. Now 8 in this instance represents India, because of the fact that it would normally represent hotel, but everything's been shifted down by 1, so in this case, India is 8. And I already have a hunch which one we're looking at here. I believe it's going to be Jigsaw, and I can already tell because we can control shift J. There is the possibility of it being Jigsaw or Juliet, but we've pretty much ruled out a just for the J. So we know it's one of these two. And that's nice, and that's one of the nice things that we can do is actually we can just figure out what our word is immediately, just if we get like a nice red letter like Juliet. So let's continue on though. We have orange here. Let's make sure we flip the switch down. Why did I have that one up? Oh yeah, I did. That's because I was getting the last word. So orange here, orange is going to be shifted backward based on the switch position, but we're going to be shifting forward instead. And we're going to be shifting forward by 3. Which is going to be 18 plus 3 is going to be a 21, which is going to be a uniform. And in this case, we do not have uniform in Jigsaw, so we know our word is going to be Juliet. So let's figure out which one we're missing here. So next up, turquoise, no change. That's going to be a Lima, fantastic. So now, is it going to be Echo or Tango, which is what we're missing here? Either way, they're both nice submissions, so let's continue on. And then finally, green, Rot 13. So 18 plus the 13 is going to be a 31. Modulo this by 26 is going to be a 5, and just like that, we have determined that our missing letter here is going to be Tango. So now Tango, remember, in A0Z25 is going to be worth 19, not 20, 19. So now we're going to submit this into binary. So now remember our powers here, we've got 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. And already this looks pretty obvious. It's going to be 16 plus 2 plus 1. So this is going to be a 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. This, and let's just do a bam, there. That is a solved module. As always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.